Film is the best collaborative art in the world. And you have all these components on the set, not only the technology, but the people. And what's great about this setup, which is really what we wanted to experiment with, was 4 DPs with all different styles and visions and how we work.
Ready and action.
Having a premise that would allow us to really get in the sandbox and play.
This is the most important thing in the whole show.
So we're here at Stargate Studios in our virtual production stage to really shoot a test of integrated technologies, including the Sony Venice 2 and the Angénieux Optimo primes. We've got the best of many technologies here, and we're going to experiment with how they all come together in one concept. Not only is the Venice 2 remarkable in terms of signal to noise, low light, color imagery, beautiful image, but there are moments where you really want a much lighter handheld configuration. And so we have a 40-foot cable running to the Rialto 2 image block, which remotes the camera body and all the functions off 40 feet away.
When you're operating, you want to be able to get in there and really move around. We had 2 Rialto 2s. One was on the Ronin and one was handheld setup. A lot of times I was just sort of wiggling in to kind of navigate under the arm or as tight to Sam as I could to get a closer shot of something that was happening. And I think there's a lot of talk that you don't want these light rigs for handheld work, but I've been operating cameras for 15 years and balance is great on them, but lightweight just makes everything easier. So easy right here. Look at that.
The signal to noise ratio on the Venice 2 is remarkable. If you need to go to ASA 10,000, you can. We were shooting generally with, at least a 1.2 ND internal, just flip it. You could just gauge your depth of field perfectly for the look.
The Venice 2 is obviously an improvement on the first Venice, and several of the improvements are to do with resolution. And numbers-wise, you've got a jump from 6K to 8.6K. When the jump in a resolution happens like that, sometimes you get an increase in artificiality or things appear too sharp. Due to the sophistication of Sony's processing and their strategy of image quality, what's happened instead when you jump up in resolution is that things appear more natural, which I think is a real sophisticated trick that Sony has pulled off here.
We have the Angenieux Optimo primes, full set of them, 12 lenses, 18 to 200, and a box of IOPs to play with.
In this case, the lenses begin with a very clean, nicely balanced contrast image, beautiful edge detail, nice color rendition. All the basic elements are there, so you've got something very solid to start with. And you can go any number of ways with the new filtration system internally. In the digital medium, so many of these things we see today have an electronic feel still, and that's not an issue out of the box with the IOPs. That sense of reality and a certain agreeable imperfection, let's say, which gives it the human touch.
You see this edge here that I'm seeing on that? What people really like about the IOPs is that sometimes to get a unique look, you have to use a vintage lens, but sometimes there's a lot of disadvantages to using a vintage lens. Maybe the set is older and it's not color matched exactly, or the mechanics are kind of off, or various different things. But like if you can take some of the halation characteristics or the flare characteristics that you like, tune them in, and then the rest of the lens is moving along like a very modern 21st century piece of glass.
I would say I came into this thinking, oh, well, for this scene I might want this, for this scene I might want something else. But what we landed on was one IOP that would run throughout the series of lenses, and that was the quarter pearl. We also went through options of glimmer, black satin, uncoated, low con, lots of other options. It was a wonderful experience to get to take these lenses, play with them, and throw out suggestions of things at times to say like, hey, why don't we just smudge up the front of something? Why don't we just throw a black satin one in the back and see what happens?
Well, do you know how this filter is made? No. He took face grease and
awesome.
I think what these lenses give us is the ability to tune the lens so it reacts beautifully to the screen, the light wrap, and then for every setup, you can stack a little extra filtration on the front or a little on the back to tune it. Now, overnight, if you say, okay, we're gonna go to green screen, well, then you pull all the IOPs out, you've got extra sharp, clean lenses without having a second complete set of primes. That's really an advantage.
We've got Buddy, he's ready for his debut.
We really wanted to blend the new technologies in camera and lenses with virtual production, with LED walls and cutting-edge kinetic lights from Kineflow, which is the Mimic. These walls are AOTO walls that have a 1200 nit P1.5, so we can work very close to the walls in a very limited stage space and really get a lot of different looks.
It was great to be able to interact with the wall, knowing that we could use the shot of whatever was in the background, rack focus from the wall to the subject in the derby car as he's racing along, and then back to the wall again if we wanted to. So the wall really becomes fully part of the scene and part of the world.
One of the things that we're not doing here is we're not shooting everything clean up against the green screen and all that. When we have this volume here, when we're having live photography happening, we can do so much of the stuff that you want to avoid in a lot of visual effects scenarios. You can have all of the smoke, you can have lens flares, and you can photograph them all at once.
In a situation like this, you've got freedom to cycle through any number of things very quickly and very handily that have been pre-discussed and predetermined with the director, of course, and the production designer. You can come up with designs, ideas, and then that leads to whole other strings of things that you might not have anticipated, especially then lighting-wise and lens-wise and all those things that have to play as one.
As we are changing lights on set, John Craig, who operated all the CG on this and the playback, he is changing the light in the virtual world to match our light in the real world. So you kind of lose track of what's real and what's not real, which is really the magic trick.
So happy about today. I even had a dream.
What's beautiful about, virtual production and really all these integrated technologies is they play nice together, and you do have to have the right configuration. If you have one weak link in the chain, it'll break. At the end of the day, it's the story and the characters. What's happening behind the camera should really just fade off into the darkness and be fluid as can possibly be. And I think that's, again, the Venice 2, combined with these amazing Angénieux lenses, give us the ability to have a very fluid grasp of the technology, and it doesn't become invasive. And as Richard says, the last thing you want is for a digital camera to look digital.
As a CTO of BandPro and Angenieux Americas, and as a DP myself, I can really appreciate the technology that went into the creation of the Angenieux Optimo primes and the IOP. But the real magic of this system is that it happens inside the lens, and that allows you to create new and unique imagery to help you tell your story.